guys, welcome to episode 19, Unusual Backdrop. We're in Hoboken right now. I wanted to get an awesome view of the city, but here we are. We're in New York, one of my favorite cities, my favorite city in the US, and I'm here visiting. I talked to you a little bit about this. I've talked about this a few times in a few episodes, that I am possibly looking to move somewhere different. Whenever I was in Montana, I absolutely fell in love. I've been yearning for a new space. Dallas has just kind of grown, or I've grown larger than Dallas, or grown away from Dallas. I don't really know how to phrase that, but I'm looking for something new to just kind of take on a new opportunity somewhere different. So when I was in Montana, I absolutely fell in love. I've always wanted to live in somewhere like Montana, Wyoming, but I realized when I was there, it's a little too slow paced for me right now. I will end up there one day, but for now, it's a little bit too slow. And then I came to New York, and I've come to New York every year for the past 15 years, and I love it so much. But you hear, it's so expensive, it's so hard to live here, and I never really thought that I could make it out here. But then I met some friends that do, have lived here and have been successful here. And I think it's just all about, planning, having a good job, finding the right area for you. But nothing's impossible. So we're here just kind of exploring and getting to see some of the neighborhoods of New York. It's a very chill trip. I wanted to take it as much as a local would. So just exploring different neighborhoods, going to eat at places that are more hole in the walls, and just exploring all the different, boroughs of the city. So it's been exciting. I really like New Jersey. I've spent most of my time here. I'm staying in Hoboken, so it was cool to get a different perspective. And as much as I would want to live in New York, in Manhattan, New Jersey, especially this area, Hoboken and Newport or Jersey City, is really cool. There's a street, a main street called Washington Street in Hoboken that's so cute. All these shops, restaurants, coffee shops that I really like. So we're just exploring. I'm in Dallas until at least April next year. So I have a few other cities I want to visit, but I definitely could see myself here. I just love the city so much. Whenever I did the New York Fashion Week episode, I talked about how I just get really inspired when I come here. There are just so many opportunities, and there's the hustle, and the energy here is amazing. So I think that would be really good for me to get me out of my comfort zone. I have an attachment to Dallas for sure, because I don't know if I've said this, or if y'all know about this, is I moved around a ton as a kid. From kindergarten to graduating high school, I was in 8 different school districts. I have lived all over the US, from East Coast to West Coast to in between, and then also different parts of Texas. I also was born overseas in Saudi. So a lot of my childhood was very inconsistent and constantly moving, and it was great. I wouldn't have it any other way, because it taught me so many skills, social skills, being adaptable. But when I came to Dallas in 2011, I was in 8th grade, and Dallas is the only place I've ever lived consistently. And so I have an attachment to it. And I think that a big reason why I'm just, resistant to leave is the craving for that consistency that I didn't have as a child. But My family is there too, and I'm very family oriented, and it would just be hard to like be so far from them. But I do realize that I have to put my comfort zone aside or be able to get out of my comfort zone to grow. And I think moving to a new city and starting over, especially get an intimidating city like this one, would be great for my overall growth in so many different ways, like personally and then career as well. So New York just has so many opportunities. Dallas is great. It's growing so much, but it's just doesn't have, it's a small, big city. And I just have met, everyone that I could meet thus far in Dallas. And I think it would be good to just get out for a little bit and then come back. I know that I want to come back to Dallas and like raise a family there. Nothing's ever concrete, right? I could meet someone here and then never want to come home, or can meet someone in another city and then grow my roots there. But I do see myself coming back to Dallas later on in life. So I'm like, why not go and like figure it out somewhere else, or go try it at least for a year or two before I'm ready to do that next chapter in my life, like settle down and have munchkins and stuff. Something else that I want to talk about before we get into the episode is I've been struggling with something recently, and I would love for anyone that has related to this to hit me up and let me know if they've struggled with this and kind of how they've gotten over it. But I've been really struggling with my relationship with alcohol. And I've always been a social drinker for sure. I don't really drink at home. I've never really dated someone that was like a big drinker. And so again, it's like very much social. But recently, I haven't been in the best mental state. So when I find myself going out and like drinking socially with friends, I find myself kind of overdoing it in a sense, to where I'm getting like drunk and like not really doing something that I'm like regretting. It's more of just like, I don't feel good the next day, or I'm just drinking in excess and I'm at, in bars that I don't really want to be in, and kind of like in a mental headspace of like, just not the best headspace. I don't want to go into too much detail, but people always take breaks of drinking, or they're like, I'm not drinking, or I'm going to go sober for this amount of time. And I've tried that, but again, I don't really drink enough to like go sober, because out of the week, like typically I'm drinking like once or twice, and it's just socially. And so whenever I tell myself like, you're going to go sober, you can't have alcohol, I just am like, I don't like to tell myself I can't do anything, or I don't like when anyone tells me I can't do anything, and I don't, it only makes me want to do it more, right? So I am going to try to actually like go completely sober, even though that contradicts everything I just said. But I just am aware that right now, in the mental state that I'm in, of just kind of feeling a little bit lost, and I just don't want to lean into anything to like nurse any pain that I might be in, or just lean into something to like distract me, because I feel like that's kind of what I've been doing. And also, just like when you're not in a good headspace and you start to drink, then you just don't make the best decisions, you don't make the clearest decisions, and I just don't want to do that. I found myself kind of running amok in Dallas the last couple of weeks. I know like also it was my birthday week, and I'm trying to give myself grace and compassion there, just because like it's your birthday, you're celebrating. But again, I just have to be aware of the mental state that I'm in, and I don't have like a set time that I'm like not gonna like want to consume alcohol. But like this whole trip that I've been here, I haven't drank once, and it's been so nice to like get up and like get moving and like it's easy to go to restaurants here and, you're with friends and you're trying to just like go have fun and like enjoy the city and all of that. But I haven't drank while I'm here, and I feel so good every day. I wake up and like whether that's like a workout or like going to walk around, move my body, I feel so good. And I'm waking up early. I'm going to bed earlier, and I really enjoyed that. So that's kind of a journey I'm going to go on. Again, there's no like set time. And if I'm at like dinner with my girlfriends and it feels right that I want to have a glass of wine, I just am going to be very mindful of how I drink right now. And I've just been kind of struggling with that. So I wanted to get that off my chest and out there. So if anyone has been struggling with that, like reach out to me and like let me know your successes or your failures, or I have to work on my mental state as a whole right now, and that's number one. It has nothing to do with just drinking alcohol. If I'm in a good mental state, then I am gonna be better about just the relationship I have with drinking. Also, something that really irritates me is when someone is on this, like, I'm not drinking, like, period. I just don't think I just think that shoving it down other people's throats is just kind of annoying as fuck. So I will not be that girl. I've experienced this in relationships. I've experienced this in friendships where people are sober and they kind of chastise you if they're not drinking and like you're drinking around them and like try to make you feel guilty for it. That's just, I don't know. It's like that's your personal journey with your relationship with alcohol. I typically have a very healthy relationship with how I drink and the decisions that I make, but I just have found that as being annoying, and I will not be like that, but this little side comment. So I want to, I was wondering what I was going to talk about in this episode. I was actually going to have a guest on while I was here, and it was a male guest, and I'm just so protective of my podcast and who I bring on and who I, talk to and associate with. So I want to be very particular about that, and it just didn't feel right. So I am here solo. I am going to be working on this in the next couple of weeks of like really dialing down a guest list of people. It's just been hard because I'm really protective of the space, and I just want to make sure like the best people that I think that really have good synergy with my message and my purpose and all that come on the show. And so I've been kind of struggling with that. Not necessarily struggling, but I've just been like very particular, and I just wanted to come and do an episode while I was here, so I'm just going to do a solo one. But while I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about, I have been kind of struggling with the idea of imposter syndrome, and that was my first episode, was about my relationship with imposter syndrome, and I talked about it a little bit last week on my birthday episode. And whenever my birthday hit, I was like awake, I couldn't sleep because I was just excited that night, and it was like 2 a.m. and I was like, I have so much on my heart right now that I just like want to start writing. So I started writing just some things to get off my chest and like also set the tone for the 26th year. And I wrote about how I want to eliminate this negative thinking process that kind of correlates with imposter syndrome. Is I just have been struggling with not thinking that I can do the things that I want to do. And so I just wanted to kind of revisit that, see where my headspace is at, and then just kind of talk about the things that I am doing to get me over those like negative thoughts. And then also I want to talk about like finding your element. That's been kind of a theme that I've been thinking about and we'll get into it, but basically your element being like you thriving in a space that feels comfortable, that fulfills you in relevance to your career. So I have these examples in my life of people that are in their element, and that's what I'm trying to find. Is I'm trying to find that space where I am confident and knowledgeable and also passionate and fulfilled by what I'm doing. So we'll get into that more in a little bit. The imposter syndrome. So we talked about that in the first episode. It's kind of been a theme in my life for a long time. Just, I think a lot of it has to do with self-confidence and self-esteem, and just truly believing that I deserve like to be successful. And I just think that I was researching this and like what can cause imposter syndrome, and a lot of it is like people that are like some like very like OCD and like perfectionist, and like I wouldn't put myself in those categories because I am definitely like very laissez-faire with a lot of things, and like roll with the punches and pivot when you need to. And but also something that can like a lot of women struggle with imposter syndrome, but also just kind of people who have struggled from trauma and abuse and kind of marginalized demographics. And so I was just thinking about when I was abused as a child and how that affects me in my like adult life. And I definitely think imposter syndrome is a result of that, just from thinking that was damaged because of what happened to me, and thinking that my life should be a lot different than it is. So realizing that and having the awareness of where it can come from is like a great step. Understanding that this is why you feel this way, but that doesn't mean it's like a blueprint of your being. Like you can change, you can, create the exact life that you want, but just having the awareness of where is this coming from. Because I think that's the hardest thing is like whenever you're feeling anything like depressed, anxious, stressed, worried, understanding like where is this coming from can help you just like get a plan in place to, repair your mindset and just get on a better track. So I think the biggest reason why it's popping up so much recently is like me quitting my job and trying to find out what I'm supposed to be doing with my life career-wise. And as I'm trying to explore like new careers, I just can't figure out like which space that I belong in. And so when I think of like an ideal career, I'm like, oh, this is what, like, for example, like I would love to be like a creative director for like fashion brands and like direct shoots and do campaigns and stuff like that. I don't have experience in that space. So then I'm like, well, I'll never be able to do that because, I don't have experience, and like that's, way too advanced for me. And that's just an example. And so that being like thinking about career and like where I want to be, I think that's led into kind of these thoughts of, you're not going to be able to do these things because of X, Y, and Z. And I just want to get rid of this like I can't mentality. Like I can do whatever I want with hard work, dedication, learning, knowledge, skills, development, all of that. I know that I can do anything that I want. And I think that the biggest thing is you need to check yourself. And if you're saying like you can't, like what are you doing in your life daily? Are you doing the things in your life daily to like get you closer to these goals? And if the answer is no, then that's it. It's not that you can't, it's you're not doing the things that you need to get you closer to where you want to be. And I think that's the biggest thing is I ask myself all the time I need to ask myself all the time, like when I'm having these thoughts, are you doing things daily that are like getting you to these goals? And I think that yes or no question will help me ease a lot of the anxiety, because I think that imposter syndrome personally is a form of anxiety. And I think that if you can do things that are tangible and that can like get you present and grounded in the moment, can kind of help you get rid of those thoughts. Another thing too that I think is kind of silly and fun, but I would give those like negative thoughts or those imposter syndrome thoughts or self-deprecating thoughts, like give it a name. Like give it a name. There's a movie. Oh, well, I don't remember. It's a Disney movie and it's so cute, but they have like he's like he's giving a he's like giving his negative thoughts a name, and his name's Bruno, and he's like Silencio Bruno. Is it called Bruno? I don't think it's called Bruno. I don't remember what it's called, but he's like Silencio Bruno, and that's like the negative thought before he like goes and like jumps off a cliff on his little Vespa. And he just like in his head he's like Silencio Bruno. So give your negative self-talk a name so you can recognize him, her, it, whatever you want to call it, and just be like, Patricia, shut the fuck up. Like, Patricia's here and we need to silence her. And I think that giving her a name just like gives you that awareness. Him, her, it, a name gives you that awareness that you can like tell it to shut the fuck up. So whatever name you want to give it, I would just give it maybe like a funny one. So you can just be like, oh, that's like Roderick, like talking shit right now. Like, let's just put him in a corner and like tell him to be quiet. So those are just like having that awareness just can like get you ready to put those like to start putting in actions or doing actions to like get you over that like negative talk hump. And I think that having a plan of action, even when you're not feeling anxious, like especially when you're not feeling anxious, be like, okay, when I am getting these thoughts, like what am I going to do? I'm going to run through a checklist of the things that I'm doing daily that are like going to help me get to these goals. Check, 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 check. Or no checks. Okay, well, I need to start doing these things. Then start doing those things. And then it's going to get your mind busy, your body busy, and then that should definitely help. Just stop and I think appreciate your accomplishments. I think that's especially if you're someone that is like a super high achiever and a goal getter or perfectionist, like once you accomplish one task, you're kind of like already looking for the next thing that you can do. I think it's really important to like reward yourself, like just celebrate like small victories. Because we don't typically want to do that. We just are ready for like more and more and more and more and more. So just remember, like when you do accomplish a goal, it can be the smallest of goals. Just remember to like congratulate yourself and like to pat yourself on the back, because when you're just constantly like, what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next, you like forget to focus on what you've accomplished already. So spend some time, be compassionate with yourself, and like, give yourself a pat on the back for the things that you have accomplished, because it's so easy to like leave those behind and like focus on the negative of the things that you haven't. Another thing too is like when you're setting goals, sometimes we just like set these huge, major, big goals that can feel really overwhelming. Like for example, it's like, I want to make $1 million this year in business. Okay, great goal, but I think it's really beneficial to like break down that big goal into like smaller incremental goals. Like if you have I'm going to make this amount of money in a year. Okay, like let's break them down to like quarterly, so we can do like quarterly check-ins and be like, well, this month I'm going to like sell this amount of product, which if I do that this month and then sell like this amount more this month, and then this month, that's going to get you to your $1 million goal. And I feel like chalking those goals like down can make it feel a lot less overwhelming, because if you're like me and you set like this huge goal and you get overwhelmed, you're going to just avoid. And do you ever do that whenever you've got like a big task at hand and you're just like, I'm just not going to do any of it because it's overwhelming, and I just would rather avoid it because I do it all the time? Not helpful, not productive. So breaking it into a smaller goal, I think, is more realistic and more achievable than just like having one big goal that, I think it's important, yes, to have big goals, but also you've got to break them down into SMART goals. And that's what I'm going to get into next, is the term SMART goals. And SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. I learned this in college, in my business college. And specific meaning what will be accomplished, what actions will you take. So just kind of road mapping these goals and being able to answer all these questions about them will typically help you like make smaller goals and like get you like tasks that you can like check off and see. Because like if you have, again, this big goal, it's hard to like measure if it's super broad and super just kind of, or not like narrow and specific. So measurable, again, setting like quarterly check marks, daily check marks, monthly check marks, or benchmarks of this is like how I can measure like my progress to this goal. Achievable, obviously, like if your business made $50,000 last year and you're setting a $1 million goal this year, like is that really achievable? Or like if you want to run a marathon this year and you've never ran more than like a mile in your life, well, that's actually pretty achievable. But maybe like a marathon for next month, you've never ran a mile in your life, like just make sure to set like achievable goals that are realistic. Relevant, how does it align with like what you've got going on? Like if my goal is like I want to start a software development company for spaceships. I've never worked in aerospace or software engineering or anything like that. So that's just not really relevant to what I've got going on. So it's irrelevant. And then time bound. So like, again, like a year is a great like measurement of time, but also like maybe break it down into like by, you know, half of the year, this month of the year, I want to be here. And it's just, you don't want to set a goal like in 10 years, I want to be this, because yes, it's great to set those goals, but it's kind of hard to like track them at that time, in that time period. So again, lean into the tangibles of the things that you have in front of you, the things that you can do daily to like help you hit those, you know, measurements. And like me right now, like in career, I need to be doing like research. I need to be networking. I need to be looking at jobs. I need to be, you know, doing things that are going to help me towards that goal. I'm not doing any of those things right now. So how can I expect to get closer to this like goal that's like floating around in the universe of what I would like my life to look like? And how am I going to get closer to that if I'm not like physically like touching boots on the ground, like doing things that I need to be doing? So that's just another thing. Lean into the tangibles. Be compassionate with yourself. That kind of correlates with the rewarding yourself on the things that you have accomplished. We are so quick to look at the have-nots and not realize like what we do have and what we've already done for ourselves. So sit down and like write, like hype yourself up, write about all the things that you are really good at and that you've accomplished and that you're proud of yourself for like doing. And that should just kind of, I think, motivate you and create some, you know, fire and hype you up a little bit for like, this is what I've accomplished. I'm amazing. Let's see what else I can do. And then lastly, like with this one's kind of interesting. I was like researching this and it gave me a good perspective, because if you're like me, you have a hard time like getting compliments, like being complimented from like people, but maybe like look or like seek trusted feedback from like your peers or like in the workspace or friends or, you know, anyone that is a witness to your accomplishments. Ask for feedback, you know, be like, hey, I'm kind of struggling with recognizing my accomplishments right now. Like, can you hype me up for a second? Or like, do you think I'm doing things that are, you know, positive? Or do you think that there's anything in my life? Like, trust people that you trust and that you can accept this feedback from, because if it's like criticism, you don't want to take it personally. You want to take it from someone that has your best interests at heart. Because I've definitely asked for advice from people that did not have my best interests, and then they're just kind of like, oh no, blah 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 blah, like kind of being negative, and then I take it personally, and then I'm like, fuck off, like then I have a bad taste in my mouth like for them, and then also I just get like my feelings hurt. So just make sure that when you're doing this, it's someone that you really trust and that you know kind of has your best interest at heart. Let's get into like the elements, the finding your element, because that is something that also like is my goal with and my imposter syndrome, negative thoughts are like holding me back from. It's like I have witnessed multiple people in my life in their element. An example is I have a friend who is a yoga studio owner, and I took one of her classes and I saw her like in her element, like leading this class, doing the thing that she loves, and she's super passionate about it, and it also fulfills her, and it also creates business for her, and she's very successful. So seeing that is really admirable. So I would take a second and like look at people like in your community, in your peer groups, or just around that you are inspired by. Ask them questions. Ask them how they found how they found themselves in these situations. And it's a refreshing feeling. And I've even gotten like emotional seeing people in their element, whether it's friends or like watching people like compete in the Olympics, or like watching musicians like create music and that sounds amazing and they're really proud to show, or like people that are getting awarded. Like that stuff makes me really emotional because I crave that. I can't wait for the day that my friends can be like, Gabby is in her element. She's doing something that she genuinely loves. She's confident, she's knowledgeable, and she's thriving in this space. I know I'm not there yet. I know I'm going to find it one day. I feel that way doing the podcast. I've gotten great feedback whenever I've talked to my friends about this theme of like finding my element, and they're like, Gabby, like you on the podcast, I do feel that when you're talking about it and you're creating and you're interviewing and you're hungry, like I see that. So I definitely think that I'm finding that in this, which that makes me really happy because I love doing it. But I know that I'm on my way to finding what my element is, but I've just been craving that. And I think that a little bit of the negative thoughts dealing with imposter syndrome has held me back in some sense, but I'm really going to try to focus on one, listening to that feedback from my friends, setting checklists and leaning into the tangibles of what I can be doing and what I'm not doing that's not helping me progress, and that could be holding me back in a sense. So that's just kind of like my personal goal. Like that's the process that I'm going through right now. And as much as it sucks, I am still like finding the positives and like being grateful that I am a high achieving person. I set big goals. I've already accomplished great things, but I'm just trying to be present in the journey, because one day I'm going to look back whenever I am finding myself in my element and I am reaching these goals, and like this is the part that we appreciate. This is the part, like, yeah, the destination is great, but this part is like what's building character, where the growth is being made, and all of that. So I can't forget to be grateful always, like during the highs and the lows. And how blessed am I that I am, on a path of just trying to create the best life, or the best version of myself, which then leading to the best life for myself, because I could be a bum and I could, be entitled and not want to, do anything and like become greater. So thankful for that. Gratitude in my heart always. Just always keep that there, even, in the times that you're thinking of, or you're in a bad negative headspace. I always like suggest leaning into gratitude, because there's always something to be grateful for. Like, look at this, I'm in a park right now, like with Manhattan in the back. Like, what the fuck? Bad. Like I have I'm like hanging on by a thread on the mental health, but like look at this, it's amazing. I just can't wait to eventually find what my element is, and maybe I'm already finding it but I can't wait to like be so like sure and confident, like here I am. This is where I'm supposed to be. But I'm in a transitional period of my life. You know, I'm in my mid-20s. That's when you're supposed to be figuring this stuff out. So you got to give yourself grace and compassion for that. While you're going through this, I'm going through it. And if you're going through it, we're going through it together. And I would love to hold your hand. I hope that this feels like a virtual hand hug because I'm going through it. I think that's a lot. Like, that's really all I have for this episode. I am really happy with the things that I've uncovered. I feel better just like sitting here sharing it with you. I love that we're outdoors in nature, like in a park, being able to like earth and like ground ourselves. And yeah, so I'm gonna go explore. I'm gonna go dive into the city. I'm gonna go to Soho and maybe go to Central Park, walk around. I don't know, but I'm gonna go get over there, right over there, and get out of New Jersey for a bit and go just kind of go feel the energy of the city and create. Next week, I think it's gonna be another solo. I promised a guest last week. I didn't end up doing an interview while I was here. It's gonna be another solo, and then I should have a few guests lined up soon. I love you all. Episode 19, we're almost on 20 episodes of Girl Talk. Like, that's crazy. I am so just grateful for the growth and the journey that building this podcast has been. So I'll see you next Tuesday for episode 20 of Girl Talk, and we'll talk then. Bye.